Okay, so I'm going to walk through the part 1 of in-class assignment 5. First thing that I want to do is navigate to the shared drive. Go click on CAA, Architecture Downloads, Classes, Architecture, Architecture 244, Section 1. And I want to copy in-class assignment 5 and put it somewhere on your hard drive where you can access it fairly easily. I'm going to put it on my flash drive in my Architecture 244 assignments. I'm going to click paste, and I want to go ahead and copy that over. In the meantime, I'm going to open up in Revit an architectural template, and I'm going to start over for everybody, and I want to copy and replace these files. I changed the names of the images so they're a little bit easier to read, and I also added some of the dimensions that we were missing from class earlier today that will help us in creating this part 1 of in-class assignment 5. So we're basically going to be going through creating property lines, topo surface, building pad, and then the exterior envelope of the building, including the 4 exterior walls and the roof. And we're going to add a little bit of structure, but we're going to get into more structure next Tuesday. So you can see now in here I have my site plan, level 1, level 2, exploded axonometrics drawing, my elevations, and my ceiling plans. So I'm going to minimize that for now, and let's go ahead and navigate to Revit and open up our site excuse me, our site plan. Let's go ahead and insert under the insert ribbon. We're going to import images, and I'm going to navigate to where I saved all those files. And I'm going to change it back to a list so I can read it a little bit clearly here. And I'm going to import my image of my site plan on my site plan, in my site plan viewport. Let's go ahead and make that smaller, just so we can see it a little bit easier when we're drawing or copying our dimensions over. Let's go ahead and go to level 1, and let's also insert level 1 image. And by grabbing these little drag nodes, I can reduce the size of this image. Now it's not to scale, so don't start drawing on top of these drawings. We just want to use them as references. And I'm also going to go to my east elevation, and I'm going to copy up a level, and I'm going to go to my View tab, and I'm going to go ahead and create my level 3 floor plan so it shows up in my project browser. If we navigate to level 2, we can go ahead and insert level 2 as well, just to get all of our drawings, reference drawings, into the project. And I'm going to flip to my east elevation again, and I'm going to insert the elevation image. And again, I'm going to reduce the size of it so that it's not giant when we go to look at the information we need here. In the same token, I'm going to go ahead and copy with it selected, copy it to my clipboard, and I want to open up my south elevation, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here. I went to paste and paste from clipboard, and so now it's also sitting on my south elevation, and I'm going to go to my north elevation and I'm going to paste it in as well. And go to my modify tab and click paste, and so now I have it to reference my north elevation when I need it, and my south elevation when I need that as well. And of course on here there's a section of the building, and there's also an east elevation. The east and west elevation should look the same, so I'm only providing the east elevation. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this action by clicking the finish button here. So our goal for today is to go through, like I said, and start working on the site plan, getting the property lines in, along with topo surface, grid lines, the building pad, and retaining walls, and then drawing the exterior facade and getting that worked through. So we're going to start off again with drawing the topo line, the property lines. And we're going to create by sketching. I'm going to use the rectangle tool in my draw commands here to draw a rectangle, and our dimensions were 160 feet by 132 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change now. And click the check button to finish that command. And now I'm just going to center that in between my elevation tags here and my project 0, which is this triangle here. So now that we have the property lines, we can go ahead and create a topo surface, and I'm going to use the place by point at each of the 4 corners. And again, looking at the spot elevations of my corner points are at 6 feet and -3 feet. So I can double escape out of the command of placing points, and now I can left click and drag, selecting the 2 top points. And in my properties, I can change the elevation of those 2 points to being 6 feet. We can do the same on the bottom 2 points and make those -3 feet. Our next step is to finish modeling the surface or editing the surface. So I'm going to click the check button to finish that. And I'm also going to right click, or I'm going to select the surface itself, and I'm going to right click it and go down to this override graphics in view, and I'm going to select by element. And this brings up a dialog box that allows me to select halftone and apply, so that I can see my property line, and you notice the topo lines kind of gray out and become secondary to the actual property line. So the next step is to get our grid lines in place here. I went ahead and added some more dimensions on the site plan so that we could easily reference it. I'm going to start off drawing the horizontal grids, and the first one is offset 50 feet from this top property line. So I'm going to go to my architecture tab and use under datum, click grid, and I'm going to drag from right to left so that we match the same pattern that's on our sheet set. And I'm going to go ahead and set that. I'm going to draw a temporary dimension between the two so that I can set that dimension offset to being 50 feet. And go ahead and leave that in there for now. And so our next one will be at 16 feet. (16 feet 1 1/4 inch). So I'm just going to select this guy, and with the control key go ahead and duplicate it 3 times. And before I do that, actually, I'm going to change this to saying A, and then I'm going to duplicate it so that we have our A, B, C, and D, and we don't have to change each one of those individually. If I select this line, I have a temporary dimension, 16 feet 1 1/4 inch. I'm just putting a space between 16 space 1 space 1/4 and hit enter. Now the space between B and C should be 15 feet 10 3/4 inches. So I'm going to select my C grid, type 15 space 10 space 3/4. And between C and D is 11 feet. I'm going to select grid D, type in 11 feet. And let's just go ahead and put some dimensions on there and make sure that those are correct. Looks like they are, so that's great. I'm going to draw a secondary set of grids, starting at the bottom and snapping to the vertical, clicking again, and we have an offset of 30 feet from this first grid line. So I'm going to select it so that I can get my modify tab open, and I'm going to create a dimension between the grid line and the west property line, and I'm going to go ahead and change that to 30 feet. I'm also going to change my number to reading 1. Now I'm going to copy 1 over and change its temporary dimension to 1 foot. And we can go ahead and click that little guy. This little zigzag allows you to create a space between these two so that you can see both of them at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and select grid line 2, and I'm going to array it 16 feet 4 inches. And we want to array it 1, 2, 3, 7 times. I'm going to create one more grid line. And I'm going to add an elbow to it and drag that out so that you can see both numbers. And I'm going to change its temporary dimension here to being 1 foot. So we now have our grid lines that denote the basically outside of the building and where we're going to place some columns. But our next step is to create the exterior building pad. So we're going to go to the massing and site ribbon, and we're going to select the building pad command. And I'm going to go ahead and just draw in a rectangle and then use the dimensions to make it the size that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and use the dimension tool to dimension from the exterior face of our west wall to the west side of this guy. Same with the right side or the east side. And I'm going to also do a dimension off the back of the building, what will be the back of the building, to the rear of the pad. And we're going to do one from D, grid line D, to the front of the pad. So now that we have those dimensions there, we can go ahead and change these. The offset was 12 feet on both sides of the building, and the back of the building was 4 feet, and the front of the building was 15 feet 10 5/8 inch. So our last dimension is going to be 15 feet 10 5/8 inch. 15 space 10 space 5/8 inch. And we're going to go ahead and click the finish edit mode, and we should start to see our building pad cutting through the topo surface. And if we tab through to select our building pad, you'll notice that it's set at level 1 with an offset of 0. So our final step in creating the site plan is to do the retaining walls along the outside edge of the building pad. so that we can retain the surface of the dirt. Go ahead and go to the architecture tab and create a wall, and we're going to use our generic 12-inch masonry wall, and I'm going to use the pick wall command, and I'm going to pick with the finished face exterior. And if we scroll in here, you'll notice that if I drag from the right side, it puts the finished face on the outside of our we want this guy, sorry. So we're gonna drag from the left to get this to sit on the inside face of the topo surface. And we're going to do the same with the top pad retaining wall here, and one more. And depending on which side I select from, the right or the left, it puts the exterior face on the side that you select. So if you're dragging from the left side to select, it'll put the exterior face on the right side, and if you drag from the right side, it'll put your exterior face on the left side. I'm going to tab through to select all three of those, and I'm going to leave the top constraint unconnected, and I'm going to at an unconnected height of 4 feet. So when we switch to our 3D view, you can see that that wall is retaining the dirt now. So our next step is to start drawing the exterior walls, but we're going to want to set up our stacked wall prior to drawing our walls. I'm going to switch to level 1, and we're going to go ahead and start to create our stacked wall. So I'm going to click on the wall tool, and we're going to use exterior CMU insulated wall, and we're going to edit its type. We're going to go ahead and duplicate it, and we're going to name this one top. I'm going to duplicate it one more time and name the other one bottom. And so we're going to go ahead and change the structure of these two wall types. Okay, so I'm back. I had to move rooms. Everything was super loud and crazy and distracting in where I was at. So we've made our two insulated CMU, insulated bottom and top, but now we want to edit the structure of them. And I'm going to set this to preview so that we can see the section, and I'm going to change my section to being 4 feet. Just so we can zoom in on this. What we want to do is, this will be the bottom of the wall, and so I'm going to move this structural core up and out of the core boundary, and then we're going to go ahead and add a couple of sweeps to this wall. We're going to add 2, and the first one is going to utilize our 5-inch sill plate, and we want it to sit from the top, and we want to offset it 5/8 of an inch. hit apply. So it's just hanging out over there. And we're going to go ahead and add a material to that. And we're just going to go and start typing in concrete. And it doesn't really matter which one you grab, just so that it starts to represent concrete here. We're not going to change what's going on inside the wall at all, but we want to put a basically a base cove on the inside of the wall. And if I hit my default profile here, you'll notice that one does not exist at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply and OK and OK and OK again. And what I want to do is I want to insert or load a family. And I'm going to go over to profiles and finish carpentry. And I'm going to load in this base 2. I'm going to just click open. And we can go ahead back and edit our type and our sweep. And now this base 2 should be in here. And we're just going to choose the 5-inch tall one. And we're going to change the side to being interior. And I'm going to hit apply. You'll notice now that it flips over to the side. And I'm going to make my material to be some type of wood. I'm going to type in wood, and let's just pick cherry for now is appropriate for that. I'm going to click OK and OK and OK. So I have my exterior CMU insulated bottom done, and I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to the top one, and I'm going to edit its profile now. And we're going to edit the structure of it. And instead of having this concrete masonry unit material here, we're going to change this dimension to being 3 5/8 of an inch. And we're going to move it up 1. And we're going to change this from being concrete masonry units to a custom metal panel. So I'm going to click the materials tab, and I'm going to add a new tab, create a new material. And I want to rename it by right-clicking and clicking rename. We're going to name it metal panel custom. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the appearance tab, and in the appearance tab you'll see that we basically have a gray ball here, and we want to change this to a wall. And so the color of the wall right now is gray. What we want to do is actually insert an image. So I can select this no image selected. I can highlight that and select it, and it brings me back to my Inclass 5 assignment 5, where I believe I should be on my flash drive or on your C drive or whatever. I'm going to open up materials, and I'm going to go through the thumbnails here, and I'm going to pick this exterior panel that I've already custom created. You can use the light panel or the dark panel, it doesn't matter. I'm going to select open. And the goal of this is to create a 4x8 pattern. If I expand this up right now, you can see my pattern is really small. And so I'm going to click on the image itself, and it brings me to this screen where it's showing me that the panel is 1 foot by 1 foot. And we want the repeating pattern to be tile, but we want to change the sample size. And this little button links these two together. We want to unlink those, and we want to change the length of it to be 8 feet and the width of it, the width is 8 feet and the height is going to be 4 feet, because we want to represent a 4 foot by 8 foot panel. And I'm going to click done. And you have some other options down here. You can see this representation is looking a little better, but we also maybe want to create a bump on this so it has a little more depth to it. So if we click bump, the bump button there, it allows us to load up the same image in. And typically you'll load a black and white image, but this will also give us the same effect. And I'm going to change the dimensions to being 8 feet by 4 feet and click done. And you can see that there's a little more texture in here now. So I'm going to say OK. So now we've got our custom panel made, but we want to go ahead and put some reveals in. And I don't have any loaded in at the moment, but what I want you to do is load in your custom reveal family that you loaded in. I'm going to click OK and OK to make sure that what we just did stayed the same. But now I'm going to load a new family in. And I believe mine is under my D drive in yeah, 0.75 inch reveal. So I want to go ahead and open up that family, and that's the one that we made in class the first day. And so I'm going to add that reveal to this wall. I'm going to add the 2-inch reveal, and I'm offset it 1 inch and hit apply, and you'll see it's there. And now I'm going to just basically duplicate this guy a bunch of times, and we're going to go ahead and do intervals of 4 feet. And I'm pretty sure I don't need this last one. So I'm going to hit apply, and it gives me an error, could not create integral reveal for the wall instance suite position is outside of its wall. Don't worry about that, just click OK, because these two are outside of the sample height at the moment. So just click OK again, and now you'll see we have our reveal in here. And so I'm going to click OK again, and I'm going to click OK. My reveals are sitting up here. So if we change this height to 30 feet, we wouldn't get that error message anymore, because now our reveals are cutting through something. So I'm going to hit OK again, and now I want to go down to my stacked wall and pick this guy, and I'm going to go ahead and edit him to being our U of I stacked wall. Click OK, and now I can choose my two wall types that I just created. So I've got the bottom and we want it to be at 4 feet, and the upper wall will be, and this is okay because again the sample height is only 20 feet, but that's fine, and we can say okay and okay. Now that we have that wall created, we can go ahead and start to use our pick line tool again to draw that wall. And we want to draw the exterior finish face along the outside of this grid. So we're going to go ahead and select those 3 lines, and now I'm going to use the trim command to go ahead and trim up these walls. If I flip to my 3D, you can start to see this is what this is starting to look like, and I can go ahead and put it on realistic at the moment, and you can see that my reveals are coming up right where that white line basically is on our material. And you can see that we have our base cove running along the inside of that wall. I'm going to switch it back to hidden line just so it's a little bit easier to navigate. And I'm going to go back to level 1, and I want to go ahead and start to create this wall here and here. So the dimension of that is 13 feet 5.5 inches. So I'm going to go to my architecture tab, select wall. I have my stacked wall selected here, and if we click on this corner and draw our 13 feet, 13 space 5 space, I don't remember what it was, ½ inch. So 1/2, enter, and cancel out of that. I can go ahead and use the align tool on this center grid to create the second one without having to redraw it. And I'm going to go ahead and use the trim command to trim those 2 up. So our next step is to create the curtain wall. And so we have a 100-foot radius, and we also have 2 feet of flat wall here to start. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the wall tool, and I'm going to change this from my stacked wall to an exterior glazing, and I'm going to go ahead and edit the type. I'm going to duplicate it and call it U of I, not F, of I. Exterior glazing 1, click OK. And I'm going to change my horizontal distance to being none, and I'm going to leave the fixed distance at 6 feet. And the reason why I'm going to do that is so that we'll have 6-foot doors basically. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to use my location line of the center line. So I'm going to escape from this, go back into my wall command, and it looks like it's switched to center line, wall center line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw one wall. It's 2 feet. And I'm going to escape out of it, and I'm going to flip this to being exterior. I'm going to do the same
So I can go ahead and right click this and say create similar, and what that's doing is allowing me to create the same wall type. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 2-foot wall here as well, and I've got my exterior on the right side, and now I want to draw one more wall where I go ahead and use the start end radius arc and pick those 2 points and type in 100 for my radius, and it automatically gets created. And you can see that my exterior face is on the inside, so I need to flip that to the correct direction. Now if I flip to my 3D view, I can go ahead and select all my walls and filter out the curtain grid lines, and I'm going to select OK. And now I'm going to change this to being connected to level 3. Okay. Now here comes the tricky part. So if you'll notice in the actual Revit model that I'm working with, you'll notice that this wall continues along the top of this path, and that our curtain wall stops actually at this line right here. So if I switch to level 2, I can go ahead and start drawing. I'm going to, instead of using my stacked wall, I'm just going to go ahead and use the wall type that we created. This exterior CMU insulated top. And I want the wall center line, and I'm going to use the pick line command, and I'm going to go ahead and tab through until I get the center line of my curtain wall. And let's Control Z that and try this one more time, just using the draw line command with the wall center line. Go ahead and draw a 2-foot wall, and I'm going to mirror it. Well, first I'm going to flip it so it's facing the right direction, and then I'm going to mirror it along the center axis. So now I've got the same wall over here. I'm going to draw one more wall with my arc command, and we want to make sure that we're clicking the center of these 2 walls. And I think we want that to be 100 feet as my radius. So if I switch to my 3D view, and it's backwards, so I'm going to go ahead and press the space bar there to get it to come up. If we highlight those 3 walls and change the base constraint to level 3, it's not exactly what we want to do, right? We want it to be more or less a foot lower. So we're going to leave it, the base constraint, to level 2, but we're going to set the offset height to 12 feet. And we got to play around with this a little bit to make sure that we're getting it to where we want. So it looks like 10 feet is about where we want it to be. And we want the top constraint to go to level 3 for now. So let's go back to our level 1 and select our curtain wall. If we switch to our 3D view, let's just go ahead and select them here. We can set the top constraint to level 2 with a 10-foot offset and hit apply. And so now these walls are resting at the base of these two walls. So we're starting to get what we want out of this guy. And let's go ahead and place some horizontal mullions along here. So let's go to our curtain grid in our architecture tab, and we can start to place these in line with our curtain grid, or our regulatory lines here. And I did all segments, but we want one here as well, just for these two. And then we're also just going to do one at 2-foot intervals, just to make it look a little better. And we're going to end up changing some of the material here of some of these panels a little farther into the project. But at the moment, we can go ahead and create mullions along all of our grid lines. And you'll notice that if I go to like my level 1 view, you'll see that this doesn't quite work out the way that we want it to. So, and we're having some visibility graphic issues here, but it's not a big deal. So if we go to our 3D view and select one of those guys, we can right click and select mullions on grid line. And we can go ahead and change those to an L corner. And what that does is it gives us a nice looking intersection of those two mullions. And so I'm going to do it to this side as well. And go ahead and delete those other mullions. And so now we kind of have this looking a little bit better than what we want, than what it originally appeared. We kind of have a mullion that connects these two pieces of glazing fairly well. And you'll notice here that we've got some doors in here. So last class I showed you how to create to load in doors. Let's go ahead and load in our double curtain wall glass doors. Open. I'm going to flip to my 3D view, and I'm going to go ahead and tab through till I select that panel. And I can go ahead now and add doors into this project. I'm going to do it on the other side as well. I'm going to add some doors, and I'm going to go ahead and delete those mullions that we created just at the doors. So if we look at level 1, this is starting to look similar to level 1 here, just as far as the doors go. The doors and the exterior walls. I'm also going to change my view range to being 3 feet so that we can start to see the pattern in there, and so this is now starting to look a little better, showing up those mullions. So we've got the exterior of this thing fairly buttoned up, except we don't have a roof yet. And so the last thing I'd like to do today is draw a roof. So if we go to our elevation view, we can go ahead and look to see, okay, level 2 should be at 12 feet and level 3 should be at 25 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and make those changes now by selecting go ahead and change this to 25 feet first, and then change this to 12 feet. And I think that warning that we just got was this reveal went away. Yeah. So at any rate, we now have our elevation set to the correct elevation, and our roof looks like it's a 9-inch generic roof with a 1x12 fascia. And we're going to add a material, a 60mm white EPDM roof. And it looks like our base of our roof is going to be at level 3, and our slope is 1 to 12. So we're going to go to level 3. So we're at level 3. I just realized that the dimensions aren't there for the offset of the roof. We're going to go ahead and click on our roof command. And I'm going to use the pick line command, and I'm going to offset 4 feet. And so I'm going to scroll in here, and I'm going to pick my my grid lines. So grid A, grid 1, grid 9, and grid D. And now I'm going to go ahead and trim these. And I want only one of these. So basically we're creating a shed roof. So I'm going to select these 3 lines, and I'm going to undefine the slope. I'm going to select this line and go ahead and change this to being 1 inch equals 12 inches. And I'm going to press check. And if you notice, we now have a roof on this thing. And as I was drawing that, I realized that our walls are attached to the D grid line instead of the C grid. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fix that using the align tool. And I want to pick grid C and then align those guys. And then I'm going to select all of this, and I just want the walls. So I'm using the filter command to filter out the stuff that I don't want selected, because all this stuff is hosted to these walls. And now I'm going to use the move command, and I'm going to click the end point of the center line, and I want to snap to endpoint using SE, and that should snap to the center point of those lines. So now that line's moved back, and we still have this guy hanging out in space. So let's go back to level 2. We can see it in level 3 here. It's grayed out, but we can go ahead and move those as well back in place to where we want them. That didn't quite grab the where we wanted them. So we want the midpoint or end point of the wall, not the curtain wall. And so now those are lined up fairly well. Okay. So now we have our roof where we want it to be, and we don't want it to be a 12-inch roof. We want it to be a 9-inch roof. So I'm going to go ahead and select the 9-inch roof, and I'm going to edit and duplicate that and give it a name of View of Idaho Roof. Say OK. I'm going to edit the type, and I'm going to just insert one layer, and I'm going to make it 0.25 of an inch, and I'm going to change the category, and we want it to be a paint. Let's just grab this guy, drag him in, and now we just want it to be a white color, and we probably want it to be a flat matte material, and this doesn't really matter. I'm going to just select roller for now and click OK and OK and OK. And now you can see I have a layer that's white. It's representing the material of a 60 mil roof. And the last thing I want to do here is, under the roof command, I can go ahead and add a fascia to this roof. And I want to go ahead and add a 1x12 fascia, I believe. Let's go back to our east elevation and see what that calls out. Yeah, 1x12 fascia. Let's go back to our 3D view and click roof, fascia. And now I can just go ahead and select the top of the roof plane, and it automatically creates the fascia. And if you select tab through to select the fascia, we can add, remove segments, or modify or miter. So I want to check that. And I want to use the horizontal miter, not the, or the horizontal miter rather than the perpendicular or vertical. Take that back. You want to use the vertical. So just go around each one of these corners and make sure that that's working. That one looks pretty good. And so does this one. And last but not least, we want to select our walls and attach them to the roof. You can see that this wall type is not necessarily working out the best for us. So I'm going to go ahead and edit that and duplicate it and name it top 2. Say OK. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit my sweeps. I'm sorry, I'm going to edit my reveals. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to 2 feet. And I think I'm just going to delete the rest of these. Say OK, and OK, and OK. Now you'll see that that reveal lines up with the other one. So one last step I'd like to do is flip back to our level 1 and go ahead and place columns at these points here. If we look at our floor plan, we have 7 HHS 10 by 0.500 steel columns. So I'm going to go to my Insert tab and I'm going to load a family. And I'm going to load a structural column in. And I want it to be steel. And I want it to be an HSS round family. And click Open. It's going to give you a lot of options here. And we want to scroll down till we find our HHS 10 by 0.005. And we want to load that into our project. And now if we use our Structure tab, we can go ahead and click Structural Columns. And we can add columns by grids. So if I go ahead and select using the Control command, I can select those 5 grid lines and my grid D line, and I can say Finish. And it looks like my columns were placed below grade. Well, we want them to be placed, we want them to go up to level 3 and have a 0 height, base offset of 0 from level 1. And so now we've got columns placed at the center on the 16 feet 4 inches. And let's just make sure that we got all of them. It looks like we needed 7 of them. Sorry, not 5. So we can go ahead and just say create similar and place 2 more I'm just going to use the copy command so that it's the same size that we're placing. And let's flip to our east elevation and notice the height of our column is 27 feet. So if we scroll over, you can't see it because our detail level needs to be set to fine. But now we can see the columns, and they're set to level 3. We want them to be set to, I'm going to go ahead and let's do this in our east elevation. So we're going to select this column, right click, and I'm going to select all instances in the entire project. And I'm going to add an additional 2 feet to the top of this column and hit apply. And that's all we need to have done for, I take that back. Let's go ahead and select all of these guys, these columns again. And you'll notice the structural material is an ASTM steel. Let's go ahead and change that color appearance to being white. And we can fade the image out a little bit here. Maybe 50%. Click OK. Now our columns are looking, are painted white. So let's go ahead and do a file save as, a new project. And I'm going to place it in my in-class assignment and name it Class 1 New and click Save. So that's what you need to get your file looking like come Tuesday morning. Also, a reminder that assignment 3 is also due Tuesday evening, and that's the three curved parametric surface, and you can access that YouTube video through Blackboard. It's underneath the assignment. Go ahead and label that and upload it to Blackboard by Tuesday night. Make sure you go ahead and label it with your last name attached to the end of the file name. And that's it. So hope you guys get through this lesson, both of these assignments this weekend.